Okay, I wanted to welcome everybody to this session on resources for diversity in education abroad. My name is Maria Ungurichori, and I'm the Associate Director um, um, and of Global Engagement Office and the Director of Study Abroad and Partnerships. And I'm really pleased to have my co-presenters here. Erica, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, my name is Erica Byrne, and I'm the Marketing and Communications Coordinator Intern for Education Abroad.
Yes, thank you so much. And then we also have a student presenter. He's going to be part of our panel, and he is Mark Hirschfelder, who studied abroad in Cordoba, Argentina. And he will be part of the distinguished member of our one-member panel here as part of our conversation. So first of all, I just wanted to start the session by saying that we are, first of all, very excited to have our first session on this topic here at the University of Montana, and that the mission of the Global Engagement Office is to create a safe and a supportive and inclusive environment for every student who wishes to study abroad through us. And what we want to also focus on this session is how important it is for students to prepare themselves so that they understand how the issue of their identity is viewed in a different cultural context. And we will be talking a lot about how important it is for the students to research their host country, to utilize all the resources they have in doing these resources, doing this research, and also talk to students who have studied abroad before. That's actually a really important piece of this research. And we're also really proud to introduce to you in this session our website resources that we have actually put together, and we worked really hard on that last summer. And Erica is actually going to be presenting the resources we have. So basically, the way this session is going to flow is that first Erica is going to talk about those resources, and then we will have a set of questions for Mark, and then we will open this to Q&A. And I want to also remind everyone attending this that we are recording this session, and it's also will be streamed live on Facebook. So welcome to discuss with us this very important topic. Thank you. And take it away, Erica.
Thank you for that introduction, Maria. As I've already stated, my name is Erica Byrne, and I'm the Marketing Communications Coordinator for Education Abroad. For the next portion of the session, I'll be providing you with an overview of the different resources that Education Abroad has for students who come from varying circumstances and diverse backgrounds. Whether you're thinking about studying abroad or if you've already been accepted to a program, it's important to prepare and familiarize yourself with different historical and cultural understandings of diversity and inclusion around issues such as race, ethnicity, socioeconomic status, gender identity, sexuality, religion, and disability. You should be aware that customs, beliefs, laws, facilities, and social practices are likely very different from what you're accustomed to. When studying abroad, you may be the minority for the first time in your life, or you may be concerned about how your identity will impact your experience. For this reason, we strongly encourage every student to research their host country, make use of both and external resources, and also reach out to students who have studied abroad in your host country. This is Study Abroad 101. The list that you see on the screen is our running catalog of resources. These resources can all be found on the Global Engagement Office website under Education Abroad Resources. Each of these identities have a tab on the website that will provide you with a brief overview of the challenges that these particular groups may face, some things to consider, important questions, a number of resources, and external resources, guides, and personal stories from those who studied abroad facing similar circumstances. Before I proceed, I'd like to clarify something. The Education Abroad Office understands that we can't even begin to understand the challenges that many minority groups face both at home and abroad. We are by no means experts, and we also understand that UM is a predominantly white university with little to no campus diversity. That being said, we want to provide as much support to these communities as we possibly can. If for whatever reason you don't see yourself represented on our website or feel that we're missing important resources, please let us know. We are constantly updating our site and would love to hear your feedback. Moving forward, I'll be giving a brief summary of each identity and outline some of the corresponding resources. I won't be able to go into detail or give a comprehensive list of all of our resources due to the time constraints, but you can find everything on our website. Prior to any international experience, student athletes need to reflect on both their academic and athletic schedules. Studying abroad as a student athlete can fit into your overall academic plan, even if that plan is rigid between academics and athletics. The University of Montana has several international partner institutions that would work with both your academic interest and athletics. Summer study abroad experiences are also great opportunities, seeing as they won't cut into your sports season and also provide the perfect excuse to stay in shape and study in a different country. student athletes should consider speaking with an academic advisor through the Academic Athletics Service, the Financial Aid Office, and a dietitian to ensure that your academics and your physical fitness will be wholly taken care of while abroad. The NCAA also has some great study abroad resources that we've listed on our website. These include summer opportunities and the NCAA guidelines on student athletes studying abroad. Other resources on the site include advice from former student athletes and dedicated study abroad scholarships for student athletes. Students with dependents. A dependent can refer to a student with a spouse, registered domestic partner or child, as well as an elderly or sick parent. The application process will be very similar to students without dependents, but you'll need to follow some careful planning in order to create an education abroad experience that will benefit yourself as well as your family. Students with dependents or families have a few important things to consider before studying abroad. One is whether or not you want to do a semester or multiple semesters abroad, or if you want to do a short-term program. Some other things to consider are whether or not your host country provides housing options that can accommodate your family, how much childcare costs in your host country, what schooling options or immunization requirements exist for your dependents while abroad, etc. Again, these things to consider and also a detailed list of next steps are all outlined on our website. We recommend that students with dependents check out the Diversity, Non-Traditional, and Families website for a comprehensive list of UM's resources. We also provide a number of external resources, guides, and personal stories on the page that could be of help. That being said, while our goal is to encourage every student at to participate in study abroad during their academic career, we recognize that not all students may find a program through that fits their academic interests and needs. For this reason, we've also outlined a number of non-UM sponsored programs for students with dependents. Again, you can find this on our website. Across the globe, disability accommodations and perceptions can change just like culture. For this reason, we encourage students to communicate their needs and consider alternative ways to meet them. Before studying abroad, we urge you to explore the disability accommodations in your host country, research how your host country perceives physical mobility and/or invisible or non-apparent disabilities, find if there are any laws or infrastructure in place at your host country to help support people with disabilities, etc. We've also outlined some next steps on the website for students facing those challenges. students should consider reaching out to Disability Services for Students, the Montana Disability and Health Program, Disability Counts, and Montech for advisors who can help you communicate your needs. We've also outlined a number of external resources for anxiety, chronic illnesses, hearing impaired, sight impaired, service animals, and wheelchair access travel, along with some success stories from students who've studied abroad with disabilities. Before you embark on your journey abroad, it's important to think about gender roles, cultural dynamics, and dress norms in your host country. Adjusting to a new culture and unfamiliar gender roles may create a variety of reactions and feelings in you, and it may be more challenging than what you expected. Some locations abroad may have stronger segregation between men and women, and in some countries, you may experience unwanted comments or attention towards you. If any of this concerns you, we recommend you contact Resources for Women or SARC Student Advocacy Resources before you begin your study abroad experience. We've also outlined some external resources, including a study from the Center for Global Education, a collection of Brown University student perspectives about diversity and gender abroad, and the US State Department's Advisory for Women Travelers. If you are a first generation or non-traditional student, you might feel insecure about the differences in age abroad, or you might not even realize that you can study abroad to begin with. We're here to tell you that education abroad is for everyone, and we are here to help you. For non-traditional students in particular, there are a few things that you need to consider, such as whether you have personal or professional responsibilities that will affect the length of time you can study abroad, how studying abroad can enhance your academic, occupational, and personal goals, if you can take time away from work to study abroad, etc. We recommend that first generation and non-traditional students alike reach out to TRIO, Student Support Services, and also take a look at the Diversity, Non-Traditional, and Families website. We also listed some external resources that include advice, scholarship information, student testimonials, and more that can be really helpful in your decision-making process. As an international student studying in the United States, we encourage you to take advantage of the study abroad opportunities that has to offer. You will be prepared for this experience as you will have already gone through a cultural adjustment process when coming to the US. However, you should understand the visa requirements both for maintaining your US student visa and applying for a student visa in your host country. We strongly encourage you to talk to your designated school official early on in this process. You can reach out to the Global Engagement Office International Student Scholar Unit and the International Student Association for help. We've also listed some helpful external planning guides and informational posts about studying abroad as an international student. For LGBTQ+ students, studying abroad can be a great way to learn more about the international LGBTQ+ community and explore identity in a global context. That being said, LGBTQ+ rights and risk factors vary widely, both by country and within each country. Before choosing a study abroad program, consider how well each potential program aligns with your academic and professional goals, as well as your personal interests and lifestyle. Before choosing a program, you should consider what laws pertain to people in your host country who identify as LGBTQ+, what general attitude the people in your host country have towards members of the LGBTQ+ community, how visible the LGBTQ+ community is in your host country, etc. We recommend that LGBTQ+ students reach out to Allies, Outfield Alliance, the Women's Resource Center, and the Office of Equal Opportunity and Affirmative Action for more guidance. You should also take a look at the LGBTQ+ travel tips and the country risk levels we have outlined on the website. We've also included a number of external resources that include guides, blogs, and the US Department of State's travel recommendations for travelers with special considerations. Economically disadvantaged students face unique concerns in terms of being able to afford an international experience. Oftentimes, these students work part-time or full-time jobs while attending the university as a student, along with juggling other obligations such as social lives and extracurricular activities. As such, financial need is oftentimes one of the biggest barriers for students to study abroad. However, there are financial aid, scholarships, and grants available that make international programs attainable for students. Also, depending on your program of choice, sometimes an international program can actually be cheaper than attending for a semester or a year. If you are concerned about the cost of studying abroad, the staff at Global Engagement are eager to work with you in discussing all of your available options for a successful and affordable time abroad. We encourage low-income students to speak with the director of prestigious scholarships at and the Financial Aid Office to go over your options. On our website, we've also included a list of the scholarships available for students who want to study at our partner institutions around the world. We've also included some external resources that offer information and advice on budgeting while studying abroad. And then finally, we've outlined the various available scholarships on our website for low-income students, which include the Benjamin A. Gilman International Scholarship Program, the Boren Awards, external scholarships and grants, the Davidson Honors College Study Abroad information, and also the Global Leadership Initiative scholarship opportunities. Studying abroad can provide you with the opportunity to learn about your ancestral history and culture firsthand. Sometimes, however, your race, ethnicity, or other identity anchors may be read or interpreted differently than you are accustomed to in the US, or you may find that your racial and ethnic identity is seen in a new way. You may also encounter different cultural norms related to race and minority issues, where racism and other forms of discrimination are performed, viewed, and addressed differently than you are used to. Therefore, it is important for you to understand how cultural differences can impact perceptions of race, ethnicity, and identity in a cross-cultural context. Developing this understanding is an important component of your preparation for study abroad. We recommend that students take a look at the Diversity website, which outlines events, resources, awards and scholarships, academics and curriculum, and campus units dedicated to celebrating diversity. There are also a number of student services, associations, and clubs that can provide you support on campus. A comprehensive list of these resources is also on our website. We also have a number of external general resources, as well as specific resources for Asian American students, Black and African American students, Latinx and Hispanic students, Native American students, and Pacific Islander Native Hawaiian students. Before you depart for your educational abroad program, you should research your host country's cultural behaviors towards religion, including the dominant religion, if there is one, and the degree of religious tolerance in the country. Many times, local religious practice intersects with gender roles to inform the way that people are expected to present or behave. If you plan to practice your religion abroad, talk to host country representatives in advance and look into opportunities where you might be able to worship and observe your religious tradition. The University of Montana has a number of campus ministries, fellowships, and clubs that can provide support for your education abroad journey. A detailed list is on our website. We've also listed a number of external religion and spirituality resources and some resources specifically for those who are agnostic, atheist, humanist, and those who practice Buddhism, Christianity, Hinduism, Islam, and Judaism. Many veterans, active duty, service members, and dependents are able to use their benefits to help fund their overseas experience, but they may face additional obstacles in terms of logistics and identity. Working closely with the Global Engagement Office, Vets Office, and with the appropriate benefits office will be important to ensure a smooth experience. If a student is a member of ROTC, you will need to speak with your reporting office regarding expectations and requirements for your program. If you wish to use your benefits to help fund your program, planning ahead will be imperative because you might not be eligible for your basic allowance for housing, or it might be delayed. In this case, it is important to have a backup plan. You should consider whether or not you will need to list your military status on your student visa, and if so, how you can do that, how your host country perceives American service members and the military, how you'll discuss this with locals and foreigners, and whether you need to maintain a specific fitness schedule when abroad. We recommend that students facing these concerns speak with a representative from the Vets office about VA benefits, with Financial Aid Office, and with a dietitian to create a nutritional plan. We've provided some external resources that include the National Association of International Educators Advice for Veterans Studying Abroad, scholarships, and information regarding the availability of GI funds for international experiences such as study abroad. Now I will go ahead and jump right into our Q&A portion of today's diversity workshop. We are so excited to have an outstanding individual come and speak with us about his experience abroad. Mark Hirschfelder is in his third year at and hopes to apply to medical school soon. Anatomy and physiology are his favorite subjects, so he's majoring in human biology with a minor in Spanish. Last March, Mark studied abroad in Cordoba, Argentina. He spent 3 of his 4 originally planned months at Universidad Blas Pascal, living with a host family before he finally took a repatriation flight home because of the pandemic. Mark, thank you so much for taking the time to come and speak with us today.
Hi, it's good to be here.
So I'm just going to go ahead and jump right into the first question. Our first question is, prior to leaving for your host country, did you do a lot of research beforehand to prepare you? And if you did, what were some concerns about the challenges that you may face while abroad?
Yeah, so I did do a lot of research. I'm a member of the LGBTQ plus community, and so I was specifically looking for resources about that. Of course, my experience won't be for everybody, but I hope to lessen some anxiety and just speak about, what I experienced. And I know that Argentina, I got the general sense that Argentina was a pretty progressive country. They, especially in Latin America, um, they actually passed a Marriage Equality Act 5 years before we did.
Oh,
So
wow.
2010. And I was also looking up laws about whether they had anti-discrimination in place, laws that specifically were to target prevent hate crimes and things like that. And I think the thing that I was most concerned about was, well, I kind of fit into 2 categories in the LGBT spectrum. So I'm a bisexual trans man, and I think I was more concerned about my identity as being transgender because I was really worried about whether I would be able to take my hormones abroad.
Oh,
What
that's
I
a really interesting perspective. Yeah, the medication.
Yeah. So what I did was I talked to an LGBT inclusive student services officer from ISEP to get a sense of what was and wasn't the norm or allowed in the country, things like that. And I also reached out to pretty much the equivalent of the FDA, and they kind of treated it like insulin. So I do intramuscular injections. So I knew I would need to bring syringes and also the medicine. And they told me that my American prescription would not be able to be filled while I was there. And so I was able to work with my doctor over at Curry to bring the proper amount over there. And then I also looked at TSA regulations, and everything went great with TSA. They kind of treated it like other medications like insulin and things like that.
Wow, that's really great.
Yeah.
Maria, sorry.
Yeah, no. So did you have any, when you entered Argentina, did you have any issues at all? Or was it just like once you had the proper, prescription, so it was all pretty
Right. I didn't have any issues.
easy?
I ended up labeling everything in English and in Spanish just to make sure, like, this is my prescription, this is my medication, this is my injection supplies. So I had everything laid out. Going through TSA in Portland, Oregon, as I was leaving, I took it out with my laptop and set it to the side. And I said, this is my medication and my sharp objects. And they were like, yeah, we don't care. Go through.
All that work for nothing.
Yes. So that did bring up some anxiety for me. But I ultimately had no issues because I was able to research and prepare and make sure that everything was okay.
Right. Well, I mean, kind of in line with that same, what you're talking about. What were some of the most challenging aspects that you faced while studying abroad? Was it the medication? Was it the fear?
Part of it was the anxiety, but I think the most challenging aspect, and I know many students who studied in the spring of 2020 will say this, the most challenging aspect was the pandemic and being hit with that, and not knowing whether I was going to be able to make it back home. And so that's where the repatriation flight came in, was once the government said, okay, no more airplane tickets, and my airline, I won't name names, but wasn't going to let me know whether my flights had been canceled or not. They had me on a wait list and things were pending. So ultimately, the hardest thing was making that decision to come back, even if it was just a month early, just to make sure that I was able to come back home. And going along with that, I really struggled with reverse culture shock, because I found such support and acceptance and love within my host family. I made sure to talk to an ISEP coordinator about what living with a host family would be like and whether they would be accepting. And so I was able to be matched with a host family that I knew would support and love and accept me. So that was really awesome. I really found support and acceptance with my host mom and my host brother, which, coming back to the US, they were more than 6,000 miles away from my own biological parents, who unfortunately do not support me. So I really miss them, and hopefully someday I can go back and visit.
Yeah, well, do you like still keep in contact with them? Is that difficult to do? I guess now in this globalized world, we have the internet, which has made everything a little easier.
Yeah, every once in a while we text on WhatsApp, because everyone uses WhatsApp to communicate over there. And I even had some professors who wanted me to turn in assignments through WhatsApp.
Oh,
And
really?
yeah, but WhatsApp isn't really widely used in the US, but yeah, I am able to keep in contact with them. So that's really fun.
That's great. It's kind of incredible knowing that you have like a support system all around the world, you know? Even
Yes.
if it's not at home, unfortunately.
Yeah, definitely. The school, Universidad Blas Pascal, was able to match me with an Argentinian tutor who was also part of the LGBT community. So I got to talk with them about that.
Oh, wow. What a great opportunity.
Mhm.
So, Mark, how was it with the rest of the students? I mean, I know that you had the peer advisor who was very supportive, but how about the rest of the students, and how did you navigate that space?
Yeah, so I have since changed my name legally, but I had not changed my name when I left because I didn't want to have to change my passport, since I already had that. And so my legal name was in the school system, and I just, similar to how I did here at before I changed my name, I just asked my professors, hey, would you call me this name? And these are my pronouns. And I kind of introduced myself that way. And so that really helped. Everyone used my name, called me Mark, and things were pretty smooth sailing. I think I got lucky in that aspect.
Yeah, that's great. That was something I was going to ask about. Yeah, if you met resistance with, that, because I've heard, horror stories where that's happened, but I'm really glad that you had a positive experience. With
Right.
that.
Yes. And the other US students who were studying abroad were also allies too.
Oh, great. That makes everything easier. So actually my next question, kind of I've experienced this personally while abroad too. Just being a female, what are the most challenging aspects of studying, or not the most challenging? Were there any moments where you became hyper aware of your identity while studying abroad? Because as a female, there's been times where I've done international travel, and all of a sudden I'm just super aware that I am a woman in a country that doesn't necessarily view women in the best light. Or, I'm traveling with my male counterparts, and, we have to act differently. And I've been like super aware of that. Were there ever moments like that for you when you were studying that you were like, whoa, now I'm super aware of my identity?
Actually, I don't think there were as many as I expected. Um, I tend to overthink, and so I was trying to play out these scenarios in my head before I went abroad. Like, what do I do if this happens? What do I do if that happens? And from traveling just in the US, I know TSA always likes to pat me down. And so I knew TSA was going to pat me down. And they did that as expected, but they said, "Have a good day, sir," and moved me right along. And so I really, really relied on the help from my coordinators to kind of lessen that anxiety. I really, really appreciate the coordinators at ISEP and the coordinators here at who helped me with that. And I got matched with a host family that was super amazing. And I had my own bedroom while I was studying abroad. So I knew I wasn't going to have to worry about maybe sharing a more private space with anybody. And oh, there was a question in the chat about how gender pronouns were treated in Spanish. So the third person pronouns are kind of you directly, and then su, like they, them, is kind of gender neutral. But in some ways, people refer to él or ella for him and her. And one way was that I was able to navigate that was introducing myself with adjectives. And so in adjectives, adjectives are gendered in Spanish. So if they end in O, they're masculine. If they end in A, they're feminine. So I was able to say things like soy aventuroso, like I am adventurous, or estoy nervioso, I'm nervous. And so I was able to describe myself as masculine. And so other people were able to pick that up and know, oh, okay, use masculine adjectives and masculine pronouns.
Right, using that as like a cue for them. That's really smart, actually. And subtle in a way that's not like, you're not making it awkward, but it's just how it is. So I guess my last question for you is whether or not you have any tips or pieces of advice that you could give to students who are going through a similar experience or who will go through a similar experience once Corona is a little more under control.
Yeah, I think the best advice is to reach out to your coordinators, not just beforehand, but even while you're abroad. And so definitely research and prepare. And I was looking up YouTubers who were Argentinian, and they got to speak about what it's like being an Argentinian member of the LGBT community and things like that. I know that ISEP is really, really proactive about inclusivity and increasing diversity abroad. And so they had a specific diversity coordinator reach out to me and say, is this information okay to share with a host family? Is this information okay to share with the school? And I said yes. And so they were able to accommodate me really well with that.
That's really great. And I actually had another question in terms of choosing Argentina. Like, was that something that you were very, sure about before you started doing research on study abroad? Or did you end up choosing that location because you knew about how progressive they were? I'm just asking in terms of, like when students are in the same position as you, should they, have realistic expectations about where they can and can't go when studying abroad?
Yeah, I think it definitely depends on the country. I was originally going to go to Mexico, and that was kind of in my comfort zone because I had been to Mexico before. And so that ended up falling through the partnership for one reason or another. And so I had basically the summer to pick a new program, pick a new country, and kind of redo the process all over again without the initial paperwork. But that was one of the things that I looked at was progressiveness and inclusivity in Latin American countries, because of course I wanted to fulfill my Spanish minor. And so I did want to go to a Spanish speaking country. And so from there, I was able to narrow my options down. And I had never really thought of Argentina before. But I was reading about how they have more progressive laws in place to protect diversity and be inclusive of everybody. And the elections were just held just before I left. And So they elected Presidente Fernandez. He's wonderful, very well spoken, and most Argentinians are absolutely enamored with him. And his son, Estanislao, is a drag queen.
Wow.
Yes.
Talk about progressive politics.
And so he is so supportive of his son, and he is out and proud, and just seeing the joy that the LGBT community has in the country really pushed me towards choosing Argentina.
Right. Well, I mean, and outside of your, research, I know you obviously reached out to ISEP a lot for their help, but you've noticed reading a lot of things about their politics and their culture. Were there any specific resources that you gravitated towards, that you just absolutely loved? Did you consume news about the area? What were your favorites?
I think my favorites were YouTube videos from people who lived in Argentina and people who studied abroad in Latin American countries. So
right.
Just listening to stories and people's experiences. And that's one of the reasons I'm here today, is just to share my story and say, hey, it is possible.
Right.
Yeah, Mark, thank you so much. This was so enlightening. I truly appreciate you being here today. Yeah, I'm kind of along the lines of, if you wouldn't mind checking out their website that we created, if there's some things that you would like us to add there in terms of the resources. And then I was also wondering then if whether you utilize the ISEP student network prior to going to basically maybe find a student who had studied abroad in Argentina who was also in a similar situation as you were, and whether you found that useful, or is it difficult to maybe sometimes find a student who to speak to who had had maybe who had studied abroad in Argentina and had been in your situation?
Yeah, I didn't utilize the student networks, but I probably definitely should have. It can be hard to find people who have gone through very similar situations. But I was able to speak with a student who studied abroad in Uruguay. And yeah, I would love to check out the website and see, because that sounds new since I've left and come back. So I'm excited to see that. Yeah, thank you for having me, and thank you for allowing me this opportunity.
Wow. Yes, thank you. I mean, we are thanking you. And I think it would be great that we can be maybe in contact with you as a follow-up to see what other things. I mean, I would really be interested in your comments also as a whole about the website that we created. If there's some things that we should maybe think about doing differently. It's something that we've always wanted to do. It's sometimes hard when we're trying to do so many things, and it's not always that we find a chunk of time that we can really work on something as important as this is. But we totally made it a priority last summer, so we dug into that and worked several months on it. And we were fortunate to have Taylor Gregory's, who's the current ASEAN president, who was interning with us this summer. And so he was also part of our team, which was really myself and McKenna, and we were working on this. But it's by no means, like Erica said, it's not necessarily a final product, but it's a work in progress. But it's I think a really important step that we've taken. So I really appreciate your comments and any input you have, and I want to now take a moment to thank everybody, and especially also, of course, Mark and Erica for your tremendous, incredible work in preparing this session. I am so proud of our Education Abroad team, who has worked so hard for this Study Abroad Fair, and I think it's really making a difference for U of M students. And I think especially during the time of pandemic, when when, I mean, I loved the word that actually it was Noah Grape, who's also interning with us, who created in the posting too. We added that is that, you know, even though we cannot currently travel, but we all should dream big. And, you know, now it's a perfect time for those students who haven't considered studying abroad to start planning the experience and to use all of the resources we have and really to set your goal high, and it will be possible soon again. And I have very much hope in the vaccine and the healing process of the world, so to say, that we can do that soon again. So Mark, best of luck to you. I hope you stay in contact with our office, and thank you, Erica, again, and thank you, McKenna, our wonderful education abroad coordinator, who has totally changed so many things for the better, and who's totally tirelessly supporting students. So have a wonderful afternoon, and hopefully all of you who joined us today can join the rest of the events which are part of our virtual study abroad fair. And have a great afternoon, and be well and be healthy, everyone.